Um, there's a lot of people that are getting huge benefits, and they're looking at these benefit checks as more of a bonus payment versus a safety net check. Have you seen me talk about that before in the videos? I literally have dedicated videos here on the channel talking about that. And I think the titles are something like that, like bonus check or safety net check, right? Because that's how they categorize this. Now, what they found super interesting is that generally those beneficiaries, now obviously there's no one size fits all, this is not some cookie cutter scenario, but in general terms, typically those individuals that have a Social Security benefit over $3,000 per month typically have other sources of retirement income. They are not strictly reliant on their Social Security benefit for their for Social Security being their only source of income in general. Okay, obviously, I'm sure there's some people out there getting a nice solid Social Security benefit, but they only have that as their source of income. And then, obviously it's all across the board, but just in general, they find the majority of beneficiaries getting over $3,000 a month typically have other sources of income in their retirement. And it could be portfolio income, dividend income, annuities, it could be a pension, it could be whatever, all kinds of sorts. There's tons of sources of income of options, but that's typically what they find. And then obviously people below $3,000, and again, the lower and lower you get on the benefit scale, the less likely somebody is to have additional sources of income, right? So therefore, again, as the saying always goes, right? Well, whatever the saying is, I don't even know what I was alluding to that by that. I apologize. But basically what they're suggesting is that the lower and lower that they get on the benefit scale is that, the less likely somebody has other sources of income, and they're more and more reliant on their Social Security benefit. Does that make sense? Right? So it's kind of like a sliding scale. The lower the benefits, the more reliant they are, the higher the benefit, the less reliant they are on the Social Security, and other sources of income are typically playing a role. Is that going to make sense? Right? Okay. So anyway, that's basically a quick little recap on the video from this morning. If you didn't see it, check it out. It's actually super interesting. There's a lot more detail in it than that, but that's in that video. I don't want to make that whole video again, if you know what I mean, right? I talked about it in the morning video. Okay, so anyway, taking that concept, now here's the interesting part, because we've seen this introduced, we've seen this talked about, we've seen it proposed in all kinds of different ways. Lawmakers have talked about this. They're very concerned about the equality within Social Security. What I mean by that is, again, the massive spread, the discrepancy, and basically what they're saying is like the great divide, right? Some beneficiaries getting multiple thousands of dollars, other beneficiaries getting sub $1,000, right? By the way, quick side note, the average Social Security retirement benefit right now is a little over $2,000, like $2,006 is like what it is right now. Let's just call it $2,000 is the average benefit. Okay. So anyway, what they've talked about, just to make this program a little bit more equal, right? So not necessarily making it like the most fair program in the world, but making it more equal. And we've also had high income lawmakers, right, that have come out and actually said this. I mean, I've heard them say it multiple times. In fact, I think, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years ago, something like that, I've had videos where I've highlighted lawmakers that have been out on the floors, either in the House or the Senate, talking and saying, hey, I don't need a full Social Security benefit or whatever it is. Okay, then don't take it. If you don't want it, then don't take it. Leave the money there for somebody else, right? But anyway, so what they've suggested is that, hey, higher income people probably don't need these multiple thousands of dollars. So the ideas that they have suggested is that, wait, there's about 10.8 million seniors currently living on Social Security that are below the poverty line. In other words, they're living in poverty. 10.8 million seniors, 65 plus on Social Security that are in poverty. Okay, it's a lot of people, right? So what they've suggested essentially is that over a long period of time, this is the key here, long period of time, like many, many years, what they've talked about is that rather than giving these higher income beneficiaries a COLA raise of say 2.5, 3, whatever it happens to be percentage points, they would actually reduce their benefit check by 1, 2, 3% per year. And then what they would do is basically take that money and then basically shuffle it over to the lower income beneficiaries and raise their benefits maybe double what the COLA would typically be, or something along those lines. So essentially what would happen is that lower income beneficiaries would continue to get the COLA as they always do. Higher income beneficiaries would no longer get the COLA. The COLA would be automatically stopped for these higher income beneficiaries. But then not only that, they would see an annual reduction to their benefit. So let's just say, for example, let's just say that a super high income Social Security beneficiary is getting, say, $5,000 a month, right? By the way, there's only a small percentage of beneficiaries that actually get that amount. But let's just say, for this hypothetical example, $5,000 a month. And let's just say that they get an annual reduction to their benefit by 2%, okay? 2% on $5,000 is $100. It's not much. Somebody getting a $5,000 check, I don't think they're going to be scraping around saying, hey, who took my $100? You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to give a rip. I'm just being real fair with you right now. I don't think they're really going to care all that much. They might care a little bit, but for the most part, they're not even going to notice. However, somebody getting a $1,000 monthly benefit, giving them an extra $100 per month would be a 10% increase. That's massive, right? So a 2% reduction on $5,000 is $100, whereas a 10% increase on $1,000 is $100. You see the difference here? Wildly different when it comes down to the dollars. The percentage is also significantly different. The dollar amount is the same. One person, it impacts their lifestyle massively, $1,000 to $1,100 versus a $5,000 beneficiary down to $4,900. And now they see, $100 reduction. Who cares for the most part? Okay. And that's kind of the argument that they're making here as well, is that, hey, we've got nearly 11 million seniors living in poverty on Social Security. Why don't we, maybe make the program a little bit more fair? Why don't we flatten out these benefits for beneficiaries? We get the money because obviously Social Security is broke, right? Well, okay, to be fair, they're not totally broke. They still have $2.72 trillion in the trust fund, according to the most recent Social Security Board of Trustees annual report that came out in June. So they still have, a lot of money, $2.72 trillion. But the problem with that is that that money has already been accounted for. That money is needed to remain solvent for the next, call it 6.5 years or so, give or take a little bit. So that money is essentially accounted for. But what the proponents of this idea have suggested is that we could get the money from higher income people, right? Let's go after the rich. Let's get the rich, right? They won't notice. Well, I guess I wouldn't call somebody getting $5,000 a month on Social Security, I wouldn't call that person rich. They certainly are getting a very nice benefit, but the only way that they've received a $5,000 benefit is probably by earning a very nice high salary for 35 plus years. And they've probably also waited until the age of 70 to get that monthly benefit. So, I mean, technically, they probably have some money, right? Okay. So anyway, that's the whole idea, is that over a long period of time, for those of you that have been asking on that video from this morning and wanting further clarification on this, basically the idea would be, again, kind of like a sliding scale. You have equilibrium or proposed equilibrium. That's like the balancing point. Okay. Think of the best way that I can explain equilibrium, by the way, I'm not a physicist or anything, but would be, think of like a seesaw, right? Remember the good old days, a seesaw, right? You're sitting on the thing and then the punk kid on the other side jumps off and you go fly into the ground. Yeah. Remember those days? Anyway, so in the middle, the balancing point is the fulcrum, right? So it's like the triangle in the middle where it, seesaws across, or, between. So basically the equilibrium would be when the seesaw is completely 100% balanced. It's level across, straight across, horizontal, it's level, right? That would be equilibrium, okay? So anyway, kind of think of it that way, is that equilibrium would be kind of around that $2,200 range. And the whole point would be, eventually over a long period of time, is to bring the benefit checks from a higher income beneficiaries down a little bit, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever it happens to be, each year, shaving those benefits down. Meanwhile, ending the COLA for those people, the higher income beneficiaries, and then basically taking that money, shuffling it over to the lower income beneficiaries, not only giving the continuous COLA raise, so they're getting that compound effect every year on the lower income benefit, but then also giving them an additional boost to their monthly benefit, basically from money that was extracted from the benefit checks of higher income beneficiaries. So they're really kind of getting kind of like this double whammy compounding effect for the low income, right? In a good way. Compounding is absolutely amazing. If you can have compounding in time, you can get a lot of money really fast just by simply compounding. It adds up very, very, very quickly. It kind of goes to that analogy. Have you ever heard that analogy where somebody says, I'll give you $1 million right now today, or I'll give you a penny a day doubled for the next 21 days? Well, most people say, I'll take the $1 million today. Bad idea. Take the penny a day doubled for the next 21 days, and you'll have like what the number is. I don't know, it's like $3-something million. It's nuts. That's compounding. That's amazing, right? That's incredible. You would think, how could that possibly happen? Run the math on it. It's super, super interesting to see how that is. And that's literally the glory of compounding. Okay. So anyway, for those of you that have been asking from that video this morning, does this help a little bit to explain that a little bit further and to answer those questions for you as far as what this would all be? And remember, this would not be one of those things that comes in and it's like, tomorrow we're going to flatten out checks for everybody. No, this would be over a long period of time, like 10, 15 plus years. It would take a very long time because they wouldn't really want to disrupt the lifestyles and the benefits of all these beneficiaries. I mean, don't get me wrong. They would want to raise benefits for lower income people relatively rapidly, but with the annual COLA and then the extra boost from money extracted from higher income beneficiaries compounded, I mean, realistically, those beneficiaries would actually get a pretty substantial increase year over year. When it continues to compound, it would add up quickly. The first few years, honestly, would be kind of slow, but then eventually it would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden it'd be like, whoa, we're rolling in the dough now, right? So that's kind of what that whole thing's about. And then obviously with higher income beneficiaries, you know, we can all sit here and speculate and be like, oh, somebody getting $3,000, $4,000, $5,000+ a month, they're rich. They're so rich. They're probably just rolling in piles of cash all day. Highly doubt it. I'm just saying, I highly, highly, highly doubt that. Because here's the thing. Somebody that typically has a higher income also has a higher standard of living. You know what I mean? They have higher bills. They probably drive a little nicer car, higher car payment. They probably shop at more expensive grocery stores. They probably live in a more expensive apartment or house, right? They maybe do a little more traveling. They probably wear more expensive clothing. So their lifestyle is obviously more expensive too. So it's not like they have tons of money. They probably spend just as much, and they're probably living just as tight of a budget as everybody else. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm right there with you. I am like the least fancy person out there. I literally wear the same clothes every single day. Not like literally the same clothes, but like, you know what I mean, right? I literally wear like shorts and a t-shirt every single day. And then when I make these videos, I slap on a little button-up shirt here. But then as soon as I don't get done with these videos, I honestly take the shirt off and I just walk around in a t-shirt all day. My point being is that, I mean, obviously, if somebody has a more expensive lifestyle, they could easily tame that down. And they don't need to drive the fancy car. They don't need to live in the nice, luxury apartment or very fancy house. They don't need to shop at the most expensive grocery store known to man. You know what I mean? I mean, all that stuff could be tamed down. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on with this. Okay. Okay. Is it time for me to take a breather yet? Or should I keep rambling for a while? Right. Oh, another quick little point that I want to point out for you really fast here. Okay. So then what would this do? If they were to implement something like this, okay, if they were to do this to basically bring equality into Social Security, to make sure that the program is looking out for all the beneficiaries, it would actually accomplish multiple different things. Number one, it would lift, well, over the course of multiple years, it would lift about 11 million seniors out of poverty. I don't know. To me, that sounds like a win in a lot of different ways, right? I feel like that would not be that hard of a sell politically or even to the general public to be like, hey, I got a plan. My plan consists of lifting 11 million seniors out of poverty. Do you really think a lot of people are going to come back and like push back on that and be like, no, I hate this plan. We're going to lift seniors out of poverty? How ludicrous. I can't believe we're going to do that, right? No, I don't think that people are going to say that. They're going to come forward and be like, hey, I'd love to see my grandparents, not struggle so much. I'd love to see my parents, not struggling as much as they are in their retirement. I'd love to be able to see these individuals, live a better lifestyle and just enjoy their retirement after, serving and working for so many years, and just enjoy the golden years, as they say, right? So anyway, I think that'd be a very popular thing if they were able to do this, to say, hey, the plan is to lift a bunch of seniors out of poverty. Love it. That's sell, right? That's it's sold, right? It's the person is sold on that idea. Okay, so that's that. Not only that, it would also basically turn Social Security into essentially a guaranteed basic income program. Okay, that would not be the intention. It would not be the intention to do that, but that's essentially what it would turn into. If all beneficiaries got the same amount in their monthly benefit check, it would essentially be a guaranteed basic income program at that point, which if you've been watching the videos on the channel for a while now, you know exactly what that is, right? There's multiple different types of monthly ongoing payment programs that are, essentially available. One would be universal basic income. That's never been happened, or never, how did I say that? That has never occurred in the United States, universal basic income, UBI. It has happened in some other countries around the globe. Kind of an interesting concept, right? Everybody, regardless of demographics, regardless of income, anything like that, everybody gets a check in the same dollar amount. I don't know. It's an interesting concept. In my honest opinion, I don't think it's a good one. I don't think they should implement that because, well, there's a lot of people out there that probably don't really need a check, like super high income people. That wouldn't be a good idea, right? It would lead to massive inflation. In fact, quick little side note, in case you have, trivia coming up or something this week, there was one state. Do you want to guess which state? One state voted on this last November. One state in the United States voted on an annual universal basic income to send out one time annually checks to everybody in their state. Okay, universal basic income in this one state. I'll tell you this much. It did not pass, but they voted on it in November. Do you want to take a guess on which state it is? Drop it down below if you want. I'll tell you. The state of Oregon. Yes, they voted on it. Very interesting. I'm surprised it didn't pass. It did not pass in the election that happened last November. But I was kind of surprised. And I talked about it at the time. I was like, hey, this would be the very first universal basic income program in the country. I don't know. Super interesting, but it didn't pass. All right, anyway. So that's that. That's universal basic income. But then there's also guaranteed basic income, another very popular program, but also wildly different from universal basic income. Whereas guaranteed basic income finds individuals within a specified group. They basically need to be highly qualified within this certain group to get ongoing monthly benefit checks. These are the types of programs that we've seen multiple of these things popping up across the country. Okay, I'm going to be fair with you. Not as many lately as we have seen over the last, call it 6 or so years. There's been multiple of these, like, I don't know, well over 100 of these programs that have popped up across the country. Guaranteed basic income. So they basically say somebody with these credentials would be eligible for this type of payment. Does that kind of make sense? So multiple of these programs have popped up across the country. But anyway, these are very popular, and that's essentially what Social Security would turn into, is this type of program, guaranteed basic income. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's what that's all about. I could certainly rant on a lot longer about all this, but I don't really know. That wasn't really asked of me necessarily in the comment section from that video this morning. So I probably really shouldn't go down that rabbit hole here, but it's actually super fascinating to look at all this and just kind of consider all the different options that are available, right? All right, anyway, I'm going to have my wife come up and help me out here. So yeah, anyway, hope this helps for those of you that have been asking. If you're just jumping on right now and thinking, what is this lunatic talking about? I'm following up to the video from this morning. This morning I had a video out. I had some questions rolling in on that, asking for clarification. And I thought, you know what? Rather than making a follow-up video, let's just jump on a live stream right here, right now. Let's talk about the details of this. Explain in further detail what I meant in that video, how long, like a timeline on how long something like this could actually take, and what this would mean for Social Security as a whole, what it would mean for the program, the longevity of the program, things like that. I think I explained pretty much all that here in this video and what it means. So hope that helps. All right, anyway. By the way, as I host this live stream right here, right now, it is, what's the date today? Monday, September, what is it? 22? Yeah, Monday, September 22nd, I think it is. Anyway, October's coming in, obviously, like next week. Next week is October. And then, we've got some very important Medicare timelines coming in. Did you see the short that I posted this afternoon talking about the annual notice of change letter? If you got that, Um, read through it. Please do yourself a massive, massive favor. Read through your annual notice of change letter from your Medicare Advantage plan or your Medicare Part D plan. And also give them a call. Seriously, at least write that phone number down. Seriously, write the phone number down, take a picture, take a screenshot, write that down. That phone number is going to be massively important for you as we roll over into October, and especially as we approach your annual enrollment. That's going to be your best friend, your best alibi, and it possibly could save you hundreds or thousands of dollars. Please